partly to look at the travel. So a lot of people follow my blog, and I hope they can watch me and say, oh, that's possible, and they will travel to places themselves. But also, because of my job before, I have connections into politics and other organisations, so I'm going to write a report of all of the good and the bad parts to try and improve life in Europe for disabled people.
Just trying to change to something good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Nu, tai jo tikslas ir toks yra pažiūrėti, kad kai jis kiek keliauja, tai yra keliauti ir kadangi jis yra dirbęs laikraštį su technikais ir su politikais, ten turi ryšių, dėl to nori parašyti paskui kaip visos kelionės gerus pliusus, kažkokius minusus apie kiekvieną valstybę ir miestą, kad kažką pakeistų. He likes your idea. Vienam. Nešk vieną penai vyrai tam. Cukraus yra, ne? Lyg? Ne, neturiu, sukas pats.
So I'm meeting in Brussels with a couple of the kind of disability groups within the European Parliament, and I'm hoping to meet one of the members of the European Parliament.
And just to represent what you have, what was the biggest challenge in cities,
yeah? Yeah. And obviously, as much as I want to learn about Vilnius, obviously I'm happy to talk about my trip and what I've learned and what I think as well.
And what you have seen.
It's a two-way conversation, yeah.
Šitą gal kažką jūs norite paklausti arba apie Vilnių pasakyti, ar kad komentuotumėt kažką, pavyzdžiui, kaip negalėtų skanus čia Lietuvoje.
Žinau, Vilnius tai kaip sostinė daugmaž dar yra prieinamas.
Vilnius is the best city for, in Lithuania, for the people in wheelchairs, because you can reach almost every building of the government or other administrations, some hotels, also some restaurants, not some but more than half, something like that.
Okay.
But not you can't get in every building you want. So it's not perfect.
Sure.
But it's the best place in Lithuania for people in wheelchair. We don't talk about other cities. They also are, the environmental is made for people who is in wheelchair, but it's not so good as in Vilnius.
Okay.
Daugiau sakai negu savo nuomonė. Šiaip...
He says I'm talking too much. not only what he told, but also what I want to say.
Nes visoje Lietuvoje maždaug 34 000 nėra pritaikyta net visuomeninės paskirties pastatų, kurias mes negalim patekti.
In all Lithuania there are 34,000 of buildings where we can't get in. Disabled people can't get in.
Okay.
Because of steps, because of you saw that too high.
Yeah, okay. That is a different reason then. Okay. So, and has you been disabled forever, for personally, and also how did you come to work for the organisation, and then we can talk about the organisation and the bigger problems as well, yeah?
Okay. Jis klausė, ar jūs visą laiką buvot neįgalus ir kaip atsitiko, kad jūs atsidūrėt šitoje organizacijoje?
Buvau sveikas.
He was healthy.
Okay.
Ir susilaužiau 81 metais stuburą ir tapau neįgalus.
About 20 about 20 years ago, he was injured.
Okay.
By the accident.
Car, is it car?
Ar tai ar mašina? No, it was the car.
Okay.
It was an accident at home.
Okay.
Smalsu, tai miške.
At forest.
Okay.
He was walking at forest.
Okay.
O kaip atėjau čia, kadangi apie 10 metų vadovavau vienai iš savivaldybių asociacijai neįgaliųjų ir buvau išrinktas prieš 4 metus į Lietuvos neįgaliųjų draugiją.
About 10 years he was a chief of other organization which works with disabled people. And just explain a little bit. There is main organization, our place. This place is the main organizations, and we have in all Lithuania like departments, small departments, but they don't. We don't own them. They exist like normal organization. They just we just deal with them.
More local, kind of smaller local organisations.
Yeah, like yes. Yeah, like small organizations.
Yeah, it's similar in the UK.
Yeah. So he was the chief of one of that organization, and how he became the boss of this organization. You have to be elected, so he was elected.
Papasakok visą istoriją, iš ko susideda.
That's interesting. I've not heard of a similar thing in the UK where it's by election. That's an interesting.
There's no.
For me.
There's no elections.
You apply for a job in a normal sense, but not where people would vote for you to become the head of a disability organisation.
So in Lithuania, some apply and the people vote for that.
Sure, but it's more the voting rather than 2 or 3 people choose. It's like everyone has to vote. Yeah. That's really cool.
And everyone from small organizations.
Sure.
Not just who wants. Only members of small organizations.
Okay, I like that. I really like that as well.
Yeah, actually we will have election after a few weeks, because the election is in 4 years.
Okay, you mean for the government, yeah?
No,
or
not
for the
organisation. For our organisation.
Because there's also
for the government also.
I heard that yesterday. So okay.
For the government will be at 14th, and our election will be at 16th of this month.
So it's having to be kind of to be voted in again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paaiškinom, kad rinkimai, ta prasme, klausė, ar mūsų organizacijos rinkimai, ar ir Seimo rinkimai. Tai tiesiog ir Seimo rinkimai, ir mūsų organizacija. Ir sako, ir tikriausiai tik tas būtų išrinktas vėl. Taip.
So from
Čia savo nuomonę pasakyti.
Taip.
So from the travel I've had so far, I think actually a lot of the challenges that I've had and that I've interviewed other people with disabilities, and they've told me they are very similar, I think, to the UK. Obviously you talked about the buildings, how to have access to the building, and the other big thing has been the attitude of other people, and that obviously can be very positive or very negative for living in society with a disability. So I think from my point, the access and the attitudes have been very similar across all of the countries. Do you want to tell them that first?
Yeah, okay.
And then I'll tell you some of the differences I've observed as well.
Tai jis sako, kai keliavo po valstybės ir šalyse, susiduria pagrindė su tom ištisnės pačiom problemom. Tai yra, kad nėra patekimo į pastatus. Daugiausia susiduria, kad ne visur gali patekti. Ir kitas dalykas – požiūris. Arba labai neigiamas, arba labai teigiamas.
Kitos šalys.
Taip.
Okay. And maybe I think the differences come from kind of government policy, but I think maybe more funding the money. So in the UK, we have like for my personal situation, is around £40,000 per year to employ carers, like personal care assistants, myself, and I have total choice of who I have, what hours I work, when I wake up, when I go to sleep, and I haven't heard of that. Even when we were in Germany, Leipzig, it was something they were starting to use, and I think in Lithuania, that doesn't.
Excuse me. Is it hard to find an employee?
No. Because
the salary is good, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so it's about the for me, I think it's about the money, the funding.
Can I translate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tai pamiršau pradžią, tai jis ten sakė. Tai va, jie gali pasisamdyti irgi tos kaip asistentus arba padėjėjus. Ir jisai gyvena savarankiškai, nes, pavyzdžiui, Anglijoje skiria pakankamai didelį sumą pinigų, kad galėtų išsirinkti darbuotoją. Ir būtent, kai aš klausiau, jisai sako, kad nėra problemos susirasti darbuotoją, kuris jam padėtų nuolatos.
Jis yra kaip darbdavys.
Taip, jis yra darbdavys, valstybė dotuoja tą darbo vietą būtent jam, kad jam padėtų. Jis gali būti savarankiškas, o jis laisvai gali susirasti darbuotoją. Vokietijoje, jis sakė, šitą taip pradeda tik daryti, kai kalbėjosi, o daugiau, sako, nelabai susidūrė. Dabar klausia apie Lietuvą. Tai, yes, you are right, in Lithuania. Actually, we have assistance. We can find this opportunity to find an assistant is
Aš gal pasakysiu, kaip iš tikrųjų, kadangi vis tiek paraišką rašom ir pas mus Lietuvoje iš viso kaip asistentą šiandien supranta visai kitaip, kaip lankomosios priežiūros darbuotojai, kuris atėjo, padarė tam tikrus darbus ir vėl išėjo, neįgalus lieka vienas. Ir savaitgaliais ar švenčių dienomis, nedarbo valandomis sulaukti pagalbos yra sunku, todėl neįgaliajam gyventi vienam ir savarankiškai yra tikros nedėjai.
Okay. Do you need some sugar?
Yes, please, yeah.
1 hour, 2.
One, please. If you just give me the cup.
Okay. So, as I told, you can find an assistant, but he just come to you, do what you asked, and later he leaves. You can't get any help on the weekend, you can't get any help in the night, or some extraordinary situations.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, I have to have help overnight time.
Yeah.
And obviously on the weekends. And my family are very close. Yeah, we are very together. But for me, it's important, obviously, to be independent. But the point I wanted to make was my observation of the funding and the differences are for Holland, Germany, and Poland. But that's why I'm here, obviously, for you to tell me about what you think that maybe the big challenges for Lithuania are. I mean, maybe the funding for care is not the priority. Maybe there's other things that have to happen first, or maybe that's the priority.
Tai jis sako, mano nuomonė yra gal pinigai iš esmės, kad mažas finansavimas ir sako, noriu paklausti, kas pas mūsų nuomonė yra problema, ar pinigai, ar požiūris, ar kažkas kitas.
Aš manau, kad šiuo metu yra pinigai, nes pas mus yra nustatyta didžiausia išmoka, o kaip pasakyta suma, jiem ten turbūt litai ir pasakys ką nors. Ir gauna tam tikrą pinigų sumą už nuolatinę slaugą. Ir iš tų pinigų litai turi nusipirkti paslaugas.
In our opinion, the main problem is the money, because you just the government.
Gali palyginti, kad minimali alga yra 830 pažiūrų Lietuvo, o išmoka gauna 765 Lietuvos.
The minimum salary in Lithuania is about 800, and the donation from government to find the people who can assist you is 600.
Okay.
So no one want to work the 24 hours per day.
Yeah.
Per week.
I think actually it's a difference in terms of the amount or the level of progress. But in the UK it's similar, that generally the jobs in social care, we call it social care, is lower than an average wage, and that does obviously make it difficult sometimes to find people as well. But it's improving and is high enough to work.
Tai pavyzdžiui, Anglijoje pas juos yra toks dalykas, kad net irgi, ta prasme, socialinio rūpybos srityje žmonės gauna mažesnius atlyginimus negu šiaip vidutinis atlyginimas yra. Tai irgi daug sunkiau yra.
Tai čia nesuvidutinio. Aš galiu dar kaip palyginimai, kad pavyzdžiui specialiuose globos namuose žmogaus išlaikymas kainuoja apie 2,5, nuo 2 iki 2,5 tūkstančių. O jeigu namuose, tai žmogus gauna išmoką 725 litus ir viskas.
Ne, tai jisai tą supranta, jisai tik sako, kad irgi šitoj srity sunku susirasti kartais žmonių, kurie dirbtų, ta prasme, ne tik, kad jam padėtų, bet kad šitoj srity socialinėj srity dirbančių žmonių atlyginimas apskritai palyginus su kitų sričių atlyginimas yra mažesnis. Just an example, for instance, if you want to live in pensionat or something who can take care of you 24 hours, it costs about 2,500 in Lithuania. But if you live at home, you want to be independent and you want that somebody will come to you to help you, you get only 600. So it's not rational.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds familiar as well.
So we think that the main problem is not how the society looks to disabled people, but how government help us to integrate into that society and how the government help us to be independent.
Sure.
Aš noriu dar vieną tik pasakyti, kad dabar pas mus galvoja, kad bus kuriamas socialinių paslaugų tinklas ir nebeliks tų išmokų iš žmogus nebegaus, o gaus socialinės paslaugas. Ar įsivaizduoja jis, kad, pažiūrėjau, socialinių paslaugom jų būtų patenkinami visi jo poreikiai?
What do you think? For instance, our parliament is thinking to do that. They don't give any money for the disabled people, no money, but they give all the whatever you need, transport, if you need to go somewhere, okay, they will organize you a car or bus or something like that. It will be like the network of, excuse me, Rūta, tai paslaugos, paslauga. Neapgyvendinimas, paslauga.
Services?
Yes. So it will be a network of services. So whatever you need, you just call, write, or do something, and you get it. What do you think about it? Is it effective? Will it be effective?
That's a big question, just because every person's circumstance is different. So for somebody that has been unable to find work or cannot work, maybe there would be benefits that they just can access a service and it's ready and there's no worry about money and things like that. But if somebody is in employment and looking to become as independent as possible, you're always relying on the government or relying on the services, and you can't choose so many things yourself. So I think it depends on how progressed the individual is with their life, maybe.
And also the quality of the network. Yeah.
Well, that's the other point. Yeah, how good is the service?
So if I live in a village and I can't get something what I will get in town, so it's no reason for the network.
Yeah, true.
Tai sako, irgi labai iš tikrųjų diskutuotinas dalykas ir tiem, kas, pavyzdžiui, ar į darbą važiuoti reikėtų, ar ne, bet tam, kad tas net tinklas pasiūlys, tai yra gerai, bet tai galbūt yra individualus dalykas, nes kiekvienas žmogus gali kažko kito norėti. Tai vėl, ar klausimas, ar tai bus labai kokybiškas tinklas, ar bus tas tinklas geras ir visi galės man pasiūlyti, ko man reikia.
Vis dėlto ir abejoja ir netikim, kad tas tinklas tikrai patenkins visų neįgaliųjų, kompensuos jų ten negalę.
I agree with you, and we think that it's a very individual thing, but we look a little skeptical to that network of services, because as I said, and you also said, it's a lot of different people,
sumažėjo ekonominė krizė, ne? Skaitykim, ir sumažėjo savivaldybių biudžetai, tai ką pirmiausiai mažina? Tai lėšas socialiniam paslaugom, tame tarpe transporto paslaugų, bet nebegauna, arba jos yra tokios mokamos, ne visiems įperkamos.
We have an example where there was an economic crisis, the budget is lower, and what they do, they reduces the compensations for the transport, for the other things. So
yeah, that's familiar as well.
yeah, so if we have a network and they reduce it, so how we can do it?
Sure.
There's nothing to use.
So it sounds that, because I think for me the ideal is that the services are the same services that non-disabled people use, so that instead of having a service to transport disabled people, the bus or the train is accessible, you know? So disabled people use the same service as the rest of society. For me that's the ideal point, but obviously we know it costs money to change things and improve the infrastructure, but that should be the aim. But I think broadly it sounds, from what you're saying, it's very political, that if the government will understand the issue better and give the right funding and the right services, then that would improve things very much. So is this organisation just political to speak to government, or do they provide services for disabled people as well?
Klausia, ar mūsų organizacija yra tik politinė, ar jinai teikia ir paslaugas, ir bendrauja su neįgaliais asmenim?
Mes kaip tik ne politinė esame. Jau teikiam vienkartinių pobūdžio paslaugas, mes galim teikti mūsų organizaciją.
Our organization is not a governmental organization,
Sure.
But we try to change something.
Yeah. Okay.
We were speaking, we disagree with some parts of the law, but also we work with disabled people. We live by...
Kadangi iš tikrųjų mes turim savo tos 56-7 organizacijas po visoje Lietuvoje, tai mes irgi ten bendraujam ir ruošiam savo vadovus darbui su neįgaliaisiais, bendradarbiavimui su savivaldybės atstovais, kaip ginti neįgalių interesus, atstovauti.
As I said before, we have small organizations. It's 56 in Lithuania, and also we communicate with them, we teach them, we learn them, we organize the lectures.
Mes esam skėtis.
We are like an umbrella.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And as I said, we try to implement the government, the departments, and also we work with people, with our small organizations, and with disabled people as well. For instance, we live by the projects. You know, we write the project, we just think of something to do.
Yeah.
And if we get funding, we live by the project.
Because I told you I worked for an organisation for 5 years in London, and they're a national charity in the UK, well, England and Wales, and they have some part where they speak to the government, they have some part where they campaign to change general society's attitudes, and they have many projects which some are kind of homes for disabled people and schools, like special schools, but more so now they have services which enable disabled people to find employment or to socialise. So it sounds similar.
Yeah, we'll do like that. I forgot about that. We have also a few employees who work with disabled people to help to find them a job or to start their own business.
Okay. So when you work with disabled people, what is the most, maybe 3 common things that they look for help from you for?
Right.
Yeah. Well, generally their problems, yeah, the 3 main problems.
Kokia kokios trys pagrindinės problemos, su kuriam susiduriam, kai dirbam su neįgaliais asmenim, kuriems mes padedam? Kokias trys pagrindinės išskirtumėm?
It doesn't have to be three, but just the main problem.
Pirmiausia, gal darbas su valdžios institucijom, įstatymų bazių kūrimo.
Ne, ta prasme, su pačiais neįgaliaisiais, su kuo susidurim?
Pirmiausia, motyvacija.
Nenorėjau sakyti.
Pirmiausia, yra iš tikrųjų motyvacija, kad neįgaliai ir nieko nenori ir nelabai, kažkaip, internetas daro juos uždaresnius, nenori bendrauti.
I didn't want to say you, the first thing mind was the main problem is the motivation of disabled people. They don't want.
Okay.
But I had to tell it because my boss also said it as a first thing. Yeah. So
again, that has familiarity at home, but I think it's a balance between many disabled people have so many barriers, they give up, and so you have to change the world around to make it more accessible. But I agree, you have to make sure disabled people are motivated to go and get life as well.
So the main problem is not all of disabled people want. For instance, we had a project where we worked only with that. We were learning them with the help of the universities and so on. And after the studies, we had to help them to get the job. Not all of them wanted to work. We were suggesting one job, another job, third job. No, I have to work. So we had that problem.
Okay.
Not everyone, but
no, but it's common.
Yeah, it was.
Well, why do you think that is?
Tai sakiau, kad mes turėjome projektą studijų, kad kai jie mokėsi, kai baigė, mes turėjome pradėti įsidarbinti ir ten vieną ir kitą darbą siūlė ir tiesiog ne visi nori dirbti.
Kita problema yra gal antra būtų. Tai gyvenamos aplinkos pritaikymas. Aš nežinau, kaip pas jų, bet pas mus yra turint sunkiai judėjimo negalę, sunku išėti iš namų yra. Sunku su transportu yra. Jeigu nėra teikiamas paslaugos, tai neįmanoma žmogui patekti į darbo vietą, kad ir norėtų.
And the second main problem is the improvement of the environment. You can't get out of your home.
Yeah.
And you have to wait for a while to improve that. Because it's funded from the government, but you have to.
Okay. Are you familiar with the term, the social model of disability? Does that sound
I
familiar?
understand what you're saying, but I think no.
So it's originally the medical model was where disabled people had a medical condition, it was like a problem, and society tried to cure it. And if you couldn't solve the medical problem, disabled people were more removed from society. But more recently, the social model is that the world has many barriers, and some are access to the environment. So if you have a step, then you're disabled by society, by the access problem. And if there's a ramp or a lift, you're not actually disabled. And with attitudes as well, if people see a disabled person and they have a stereotype that's negative, that then you are disabled again. But if they're educated and open,
treat you like normal people,
then you're not disabled. You have a condition, so I have my wheelchair and my support assistance, but I'm very able to work, to socialise, to be married, whatever. And so the social model is about removing the barriers of society so disabled people can become fully included.
Change the view of the society.
Yeah.
Jisai paaiškino tokį terminą, ką reiškia. Tai žmogus būti neįgalus pagal būtent ar susirgimą ar traumą kažkam, bet gali būti ir pagal būtent tą visuomenės požiūrį. Tai yra, jeigu tave keistai žiūri, netoleruoja arba nepriima, ar išskiria kažkaip, tai prasme, tai būtų neįgalumas ir tu nenori gal net tą visuomenį būti, kai tokia yra, bet tave išskiria kaip kažkokį, o ne tiesiog laikom normaliu žmogum. Jisai sako, aš turiu savo vežimėlį, asistentą, bet aš labai įgalus ir daug ką galiu padaryti.
Panašiai ir pas mus turbūt atvirkščiai yra. Ir kai tu neturi asistento, tu esi išvis neįgalus. Ir pažiūrėtos, kaip ateinant lankomosios priežiūros arba tos paslaugos suteikiamas ten tiktais tam tikrų laikotarpių ir tam tikrų metų. Ir jos nepadeda žmogui būti savarankiškai. Jos tiktais padeda žmogui kaip apsitarnauti. Ne? O jeigu mes kalbam apie savarankiškumą, mes iš tikrųjų sunkiai negalią turintis žmogus iš tikrųjų turėtume turėti asistentą, kuris būtų šalia ir kuris būtų reikalingas tik ten, kur negali pats padaryti. Mes tą puikiai suprantam, bet tos mūsų valdžia šito kol kas nesupranta. Tai čia vienas iš tų. O tas požiūris į kaip pas mus neįgaliųjų teisės konvencija kaip prie, tai norėjo būti, kad neįgalumo kaip čia tas sąrašas būtų baigtinis. Pas jų yra kaip, kad sako, kad aš esu neįgalus vien todėl, kad į mane blogai ten žiūri kiti. Pas mus tokių net iš vis net neįsivaizduotų, kad dėl to gali būti neįgalus. Pas mus yra vertinimas to ne tik medicininį žmogaus būklę, net socialinė aplinka nėra vertinama. Dar šiuo metu nors kalba, bet ji nėra vertinama.
Tai man dabar viską pasakyti?
Pasakyk viską, bet pasakyk paskutinis tai tikrai.
Nuo ko pradėti?
Aš nežinau, kaip žmogų tas pas mus tik tai yra baigtinis negalių sąrašas šiuo metu.
I understand what you were saying and Nambos also agrees, but he says it's a little bit different in Lithuania.
Okay. Toks dalykas, kad žmogus būtų neįgalus dėl kitų požiūrių, neigiamų vertinimo, bet iš vis neįsivaizduoja.
We haven't reached that level when you can be disabled by the view of society.
Okay.
So when we are ratifying the Convention of Disabled, you know about what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
Our government wanted to do the list when the person is disabled. For instance, from that illness, that accident, that, you know.
More the medical side.
Yeah, and now we have that problem. For instance, our boss is able very much, but if somebody doesn't help him, he can't get in at work.
Yeah.
So there's a problem when they looking how disabled or able you are. They don't look at the environment.
Okay.
Because you understand, there is a difference in the city and in the village.
Yeah.
I need less help in the city. For instance, get in the car, or in the village I need much more help.
Yeah.
And they don't look at that point.
Okay. I guess to explain that with the medical and the social model, they're just very, you know, in universities you have a model and it's a simplified way to explain something, but it doesn't mean even in the UK the government are using the social model. It's more the disability organisations. That's how they try to explain to government, or to, it's the aim, yes, yeah. And it's moving more that way, but still in the UK, like when I'm assessed, when they ask me lots of questions for what I need, then it would be all about what can't you do, what is your medical condition. So from the government it's not social model necessarily when they are filling out the forms to understand how much money or which services to give you.
They just simplify that.
Yeah, with the social model, it's just a general simplification of the
Mhm.
aim, as you say. It's more the aim, the current situation.
Yeah, it's the same with our government. They understand that they have improved the environment, to look at it when they trying to, I don't know how to say. Yeah, it's the same. The view of government is the same in Lithuania. The side of that part of social model is also the aim.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But
obviously
they also
you
look
have
just
to
to the
understand.
medical condition.
Yeah, but obviously that's an important part when you understand the services or the help you need. You have to understand the medical condition. So it doesn't ignore the medical condition, but it's more not to solve it or change the person's ability with the medical condition. It's more, as we said earlier, to improve the environment around and give the right support with wheelchairs or care assistance. So it's not.
In other words, they give some support, but not enough.
Yeah, the support is part of removing the barriers. Yeah.
I understand. Tai jis sako irgi, ta prasme, kad Anglijai irgi nėra taip viskas, taip kaip jis sakė, ta prasme, dėl, kaip aiškinu iš prašymų, dėl vertinimų irgi. Jie supranta, ta prasme, labiau nevyriausybinės organizacijos, tai laiko ir labiau agituoja tą modelį, kad ir iš socialinės pusės turi visuomenės požiūris keistis ir labiau negalės padėti ir daugiau kaip aplinka pritaikoma, jie tiesiog vertinama irgi aplinka. Vyriausybė sako, kai užduoda, kai ir ne tik vyriausybė, kai jam uždavinėja klausimus arba klausia ministerijos, tai ko dar reikia tokiam asmeniui, kuris yra neįgalus, ko dar reikia, sako, irgi iš esmės klausimai yra iš medicininės pusės.
It's debated in England, it's debated if it's correct or not by many people. It's just, I think I was trying to explain it broadly, to get onto a bus, to transport, and to go into a public building, and to be employed by businesses. It's more about society generally understanding disabled people's needs and including that in decisions and infrastructure and policies. And the more that happens, the less the barriers are and the more able disabled people are.
The more efforts.
The more effort. Yeah.
Tai irgi sako, ta prasme, iš esmės, kad ir kuo visuomenė bus aprūpingesnė ir kuo palankesnė neįgaliesiems aplinka ir keliauti, ir autobusų naudotis, ir darbą susirasti, tuo tie barjerai greičiau ir išdėti. Gal norit jūs kažko paklausti apie jo kelionę?
Mes apie tą irgi šnekam. Mūsų irgi uždavinys toks yra, kad jeigu mes norim neįgaliuosius, mūsų tikslas yra neįgaliuosius integruoti bendruomenį, o ne kaip atskirą saugoti, kaip atskirą.
Our aim is also to integrate the disabled people into society, to help them to find a job, to learn, to help them to find a job or to go out in that society, to use public transport, to go to the theaters.
Nes valstybė irgi supranta mūsų kaip skėtinių asociacijų neįgaliųjų vaidmenį, nes mes esam irgi finansuojam, mūsų programos yra pagrindai finansuojamas iš valstybės biudžeto, tam tikriem uždaviniam įgyvendinti.
Our programs, as I said before, we live by the programs, and these programs also is funded from the budget. So we have some assignments, some goals to achieve.
Targets.
Kaip darysi nepakankam finansavimą.
But not enough.
Sure, yeah. Well, I was going to ask, when I say the broad discussion there about the models and everything is more within disability organisations and the government. They're the kind of conversations that happen. But obviously on a day-to-day level, so for me with my personal experience, like you say, it's just about getting into work and it's about going to the cinema and just living everyday life.
Yeah, just doing whatever you want.
And when you talked about the motivation of disabled people, that's also a barrier. It's more of an internal barrier. So when we talk about removing these barriers, it's not always to just blame society for steps or a bad attitude. Another barrier is that the individual has the education, the confidence, the social skills to be able to work and be included as well. So it sounds like your organisation does all of those things to support, yeah, as much as you can with the funding and the resources. Yeah. So one thing obviously I've been asking often on the trip is around the European Union, because obviously there is the European Union and all of the countries I visited are within it, and I'm then going to Brussels at the end of the trip to try and talk to the politicians there about disability and what the European Parliament are trying to do or doing. From your perspective, has the EU helped disabled people, or is there any general points to make from the European Union and disabled people in Lithuania?
Mūsų požiūriu, can you repeat the question?
So essentially, with the European Union, has there been an improvement for disabled people?
Exactly, not from our government, but from the European Union.
Because you've told me about the challenges of the government in Lithuania. So yeah, just from the European Union, is there anything that
You can ask.
yeah, funding or support, advice, training, anything?
Okay. Tai, ta prasme, jisai savo kelionės pabaigoje keliauja susitikti su Europos parlamento nariais, iš Europos Sąjungos parlamentais, ir klausė, ar mes kažką tai norėtume iš savo pusės pasakyti arba kažką tai pakomentuoti, ko dar jums trūktų arba reikėtų iš Europos Sąjungos Lietuvai. Pavyzdžiui, mokymų, finansavimo, spaudimo kažkokių tai valstybės vyriausybei ar Seimui, direktyvos, ko mes norėtume prašyti.
Gruodžio 5 dieną Briuselį gal susitiks.
Maybe we'll meet you on the 5th of December in Brussels.
Okay.
Europos parlamente ten susitikimas yra, negaliu. Ko norėtumėm? Europos parlamentas reglamentuoja tas sritis, išskyrus socialinės sritis, kurios palieka tai valstybėm pačioms spręsti.
Bet mūsų esami projektas tai buvo rotacija.
Iš jų buvo. Tai, kad projektų nėra, mes negalim sakyti, nes man taip nepasinaudoja tais projektais, bet pažiūrėtas apie pragyvenimo lygį, apie vidutinį darbo užmokestį. Taip, čia yra, taip, šitas lieka valstybės vidaus reikalas. Ir jeigu laikytis, kodėl akcizo reikia laikytis, tai pagal Europos reglamentus yra tam pačiam kūrui. O pragyvenimo lygis yra paliekamas pačiai valstybės spręsti. Tai aš manau, kad turėtų būti vis tiek kažkokios minimalios numatytos ribos, kokios turėtų būti, norint užtikrinti, kad tų pačių neįgalių arba paslaugų kiekis kažkoks tai turėtų būti numatytas, ką žmogus turi gauti, arba išmokų dydis kažkoks tai prilygintas vis tiek su pragyvenimo lygio ar dar kažkaip. Jeigu supratai namas.
Nesupratau, lietuviškai sakė. We think that there will be some minimum guidance how much the service disabled people should get, something like that. Because the access is
Pažiūrėjau, akcizas degalams yra privalomas, ne? Nustatytas ribos, mažiausiai didžiausiai. O kalbant apie išmokos socialinis, tai niekas nekalba, tą paliekam valstybę pačiai spręsti. Prie valstybės neįpareigoja. Aš kaip perėsiu.
Geriau paprastesnį funkcionuoja.
Daug.
You know, for instance, access is the burden. You must to pay, yeah? But when we speaking the countries, but when we speaking about the minimum average salary or the network of society, it's left for the country. So our members thinks that there will be some guidance, minimum guidance, how many services or how many should get the minimum.
Okay.
Not less than something like that.
Okay. So overall, the European Union hasn't kind of improved the life for disabled people in some way. No? It's more because of the politics of the Lithuanian government.
Yes, we can't say that the European Union don't care about disabled people in Lithuania. No, there were some projects funded by the European Union, so that's something. Yeah,
sure.
It's we have to take an opportunity to adopt it. Yeah, so we can't blame them. It's also, as I said, there was projects, there was learning, so we can't tell that they don't do anything. But maybe from the other point of view, there should be some guidance.
So when you say
for the government,
okay. So my main question really is, if I was to talk next week to somebody in Brussels and say these 1 or 3 things would be good if you could provide that. I'm sure money is one, right? Always. But yeah, would there be something else that doesn't exist now that in the future maybe could make a big difference for life here for disabled people?
So as I told one of them, it could be maybe some guidance which the government has to follow.
Okay. So yeah, it'd be
not just the money.
Sure. And then maybe that could come from experience of other countries that have implemented services which were successful.
Yeah, maybe some countries could give an examples or suggestions, something like that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, from my side, there's not so much more I wanted to ask. I've asked everything I planned to. Is there anything else you'd like to ask me?
Sako, aš iš savo pusės daugiau nebelabai ką turiu paklausti. Daugmaž kaip ir viskas, ką noriu sužinojau, sako, gal mes norėtum kažkokį pasiteirauti. Nes jos senėlis, pavyzdžiui, buvo iš Lietuvos, gal tiesiog man ten kažką užduot klausimą apie kelionę.
Ne, tai smalsu, kaip keliauja su savo transportu, visuomeniniu transportu, dabar važiuoja iš vienos šalies į kitą, naudojasi miesto infrastruktūrą.
How are you traveling with your own car, or maybe in some countries you are just trying public transport?
Yeah, we have the adapted car, so generally we've been using that.
By car, yeah?
Yeah, generally by car. But in Vilnius we were very central and we could get everywhere we wanted by the wheelchair. So yesterday we explored the cathedral and St. Anne's Church, and is it Utopia, the independent state? Utopia?
Independent state?
Yeah, it's a tiny, where the artists live. You know what I mean?
Not exactly Utopia.
It's Uzopia. Utopia or something like this. Anyway.
Užupis.
Thank you.
Yes,
Užupis.
I know.
My
yes,
pronunciation is terrible.
No, it's okay. You almost pronounced correctly.
Okay, cool.